India likes to tell itself a comforting story about school education, that it is noble, that it is a service, that it is not for profit. On paper, that is still the law, but on the ground, the story is more layered. A recent investigative story by the Ken has sparked intense conversations across the education sector. Many school owners disagree with drawing broad conclusions from a single example, and that concern is fair. No one model can represent thousands of diverse institutions across the country. It is also a reality that layered financial arrangements are common. One organization operates the school, another owns the land, a third provides services. Money flows, not labeled as profit, but as rent, management fee, brand charges, and consulting payments. Carefully structured, legally compliant, financially significant. The school remains not for profit. The ecosystem around it often does not. And this is not a fringe issue. It is widely understood way in which capital participates in education while technically respecting the letter of the law. But this conversation must remain balanced. Many schools today are under real financial pressure. In several states, fee increases have been frozen or tightly regulated for years, while teacher salaries, compliance, requirements, infra, and technology demands continue to rise. For many institutions, sustainability itself has become a daily challenge. So this is not a simple story of greed versus goodness. It is a story of a system under strain, financially, morally, and structurally. Here is another uncomfortable question. If schools are truly not for profit, why are major private equity and venture capital firms investing billions into Indian school education? Capital rarely enters sectors without expecting returns. So what exactly is being invested in? And where are those returns expected to come from? Which brings us to the central question we rarely ask out loud. If capital is already part of school education, why are we still pretending it isn't? Is India protecting the soul of education, or has it pushed profit into the shadows, where there is less transparency, less accountability, and fewer honest conversations? Because this is not just about investors or school owners. It is about parents paying rising fees, teachers working within tight budgets, students whose education is shaped by financial decisions they never see. Would legalizing for-profit schools bring sunlight, regulation, and clarity? Or would it formally turn learning into a marketplace where margins quietly outrank mission? Tonight, we stop whispering. Tonight, we bring this conversation into the open. This is the education verdict. Straight questions, real answers, no fluff. Co-powered by Hop Class and Mayur School, Jaipur. Joining me tonight, Mukesh Sharma, Chairperson, Prometheus School, Noida. Amith Bajla, Chairperson, Taurian World School, Ranchi. Pramod Sharma, Vice President, Genesis Global School, New Delhi, NCR. And Vivek Sinhar, Director, Innovative International School and Sinhar Foundation, Rajkot, Gujarat. Appreciate you all joining us. Let's dive right into the discussion. Should India allow for-profit schools, yes or no, and what is your core reason?
My answer is no. India should continue to have schools operate as a not-for-profit institution. Education in India isn't just a service. It's a constitutional right under Article 21A.
My stand is yes, education should be allowed for profit. It is absolutely necessary that a huge capital flows into this sector, and any capital needs return, as you said. So I feel that education should be allowed for profit. Yes, it is a noble cause, as we say, and so is healthcare. Why is healthcare allowed to be run for profit and not education? Education, by the way, is the only sector in India which is governed by a law which says that you cannot run it for profit. And I don't see any logic in it.
I would like to say that we should allow the educational institutions to run for profit, but reasonable profit. 10%, 15% should be allowed by rules, that this much amount of money you can make. Because at the moment what is happening, the rules are such, we are forcing people to cheat. And laws should not be such that they should force people to deceive, be dishonest, We must have laws which bring in transparency and equal justice. It is the job of the government, which has failed miserably in providing education to all. It is not the job of a promoter who has got into school education to get equipped and get, even at a disadvantage, try and equip and provide free education or basic education to all. That is the job of the government.
I stand for allowing for-profit enterprises to run education. Healthcare is another social sector which allows for-profit entities. There are other social sectors which are critical, like defense, like infrastructure, roads, ports, power. All of these are social utilities in which for-profit entities are allowed to function. And that is why we promote all kinds of capital, not only philanthropy, CSR, charity, but also for-profit entities to enter the field of education and work tirelessly.
Let's go deeper and please answer me honestly. Is profit already being made in school education just under different names?
There are organizations, institutions that are taking out profit through various means by whether it is related party transaction, whether it is inflated rent or multiple ways. But if things are not done in the right way, I think enforcement is required, enforcing transparency is required. And in the world that we are living in, digital world, where AI and data analytics is playing a significant role, enforcing, we can have tools that will figure out who is violating it, and they should be punished. If you want to do business, there are so many business that you can do. Why do you want to make education as a business, especially in a country that is world's most populous country today, and where inequality prevails?
What's your take on this, Amith?
So I feel yes, education, all institutions, bottom line is very important. Capital is a cost, and capital should be respected. I feel profit should be made so that the institution improves. I think profit should be made so that it can attract investments from bigger players. And I feel because of this law or because of this assumption or notion that we should not make money, that is the reason why people are taking a via route. Let it be open. Let people make money. Let competency come in. People who are good, they would last, and people who are not good, maybe they would not. So I feel that education should be for profit. And when it comes to educating a large country like us, probably this is the only way to do it.
Of course, it is definitely being made by means which are not transparent, and these kind of corrupt practices must be stopped. There's no doubt about that.
Profit is definitely being made through hidden channels and shadow entities. The entities that create the land will be extracting rent from the trust, making it non-profit on paper, but then most of the funds are channelized through vendors, through services providers, through real estate arms.
Yeah, I want to add something here. The entire reason for this via route is that you are compelled to run an educational institute through a trust. And the objective of the trust is non-profit. I'm saying just open it up. Why should a hospital run for profit and a school shouldn't? What is not so noble about healthcare? Or why should legal help or legal services be run for profit and not a school?
So that's a very good point that Amith Bhai has raised. Let me take you back to 47, right? It took us 2 years, 11 months, 18 days to come up with our Indian constitution, okay? And education was rightly put in with an Article 21A. But if you go and check healthcare is important, but there is no clause, there is no article that says that healthcare organizations have to be not for profit. We all agree that education in most of the institutions are generating surplus. and I am good with it. Profit should be generated, but that profit has to be reinvested in education space only. Don't create chain of schools through the school that you started, but give back to the society. If you're a private school, okay, run through a trust, use your profits to give back to the society, teach the talented children of below the poverty line.
If the entire panel agrees that there is money being made in the private schools, which brings me to the next question, if money is being earned anyway through rent, fees and services, why not bring it into the open and regulate it?
Well, my point here is again, I mean, if we are illegally making money, then that should be stopped. We need to detect it and protect it. And that can be done in the current age. It is even more relevant because of the AI tools and all. It is not difficult to figure out who is extracting money out of the system, who is making illegal profits. And then we have to enforce transparency and prevent this from happening, rather than saying let's endorse illegal profit that was happening, let's go ahead and continue to support it and make it a for-profit organization.
Let's go back to 1960s and 70s, where healthcare in India was legally allowed to be run for non-profit. Come 80s and this sector opened up, and see what has happened to medical services. Yes, I see that there's a lot of profiteering happening, but also see the kind of infrastructure that this country has built in healthcare. I feel that profit should not be a bad word. We should not shy away from it. Profit is capital's right. What I'm saying is profiteering may not be the right way to do it. One should make money, one should have returns on the capital, and the best way to do it, not to create this hoax of a structure where an entrepreneur has to go around it. Let it be all out in the open, and I think it will only help education and the education sector in India.
I surely agree with that education should allow, the rules should be such that they should allow reasonable margin, reasonable profit, which can be reinvested into school education, because it is very, very capital intensive today. It is unlike the socialism of 70s, 60s and 70s, it is today a different kind of world. We need to give people their rightful dues. The teachers' salaries have not been able to keep pace with the rising inflation and rising costs of living. Should be needed to be provided.
I believe that there are, in the words of Elon Musk, there are takers, there are givers, there are makers and matchers, right? So we cannot just rely on givers to keep giving and making education great, right? To fill the gap that is there, the big hole that is there, we will need everyone for education, and everyone has to give it their all. Even takers should come into education. Even givers, we should not rely on only givers. Why we want for-profit entities is there are no loans for schools, there are no loans for trusts, right? So in order to get good capital in, good funding is required. If it is a for-profit entity, its upfront cost is immense. The capital invested initially is immense. In order to get its utilization, it takes at least 5 to 8 years to reach the capacity utilization and break-even points. So it is capital intensive. Even if you say, even if it is a for-profit entity, it will take at least 7 to 8 years, 10 years to break even the capital investment. Even you just have to discount all the interest on.
I'm sorry,
that.
but I disagree. This does not, make this qualification that because trust cannot get loan, you will raise capital from private equity to start a school. If you don't have your own wealth, no private equity is going to invest in you unless you have some kind of IP, right? Which even IP also you won't be able to get. You have to have some asset against which you can take loan, right? So you'll need to have a private limited company. Trust does not have money by itself. Somebody has to put money in it. So where would you get it from? PE firm would not give it to you.
But then again, that your analogy also doesn't make sense when you say that make it for profit and then use those particular profits and then reinvest in the education. I mean, we are actually doing it. We are calling it expenditure. Why pay taxes on profit and then invest the same money in education?
I
mean,
agree.
that is happening right now. Correct?
Pramod sir said the same thing. So that is already happening. What I think what you are trying to ask is, can we take that money out as owners? Can I take profit and say, 25% of the profit goes in my pocket, 25% goes for teacher development, give bonus to teachers, and remaining 25% keep it for future development, and balance 25% give it for development of whatever society in whatever way. So that and all, I think government has to definitely look at it, and they have to come back with a framework, a structure, and then those who want to sign up to start a school, they have to comply with it. Right now what is happening is it is being abused, and because government as an entity, they are not able to keep a check on it for multiple reasons. They've got multiple priorities, number of things. But like I said a few minutes back, that this is not going to be for too long. You'll see institutions getting notices of evasion of profits through whatever means, and they are going to be in trouble, is what I feel. Illegitimate profit, we want to say, endorse it, make it right, instead of enforcing transparency.
But before we move further, let me bring in something we are hearing from many school leaders across the country. Several of them say private capital is already influencing education in indirect ways, and acknowledging that reality may be more honest than denying it. Some compare education with healthcare, another public good where both for-profit and non-profit institutions operate side by side. There is also a view that while policy discussions often call for much higher public spending on education, actual allocations remain far below those aspirations. Responsible private investment, they argue, could not help bridge that gap without replacing government responsibility. Others believe allowing for-profit schools could expand capacity, encourage innovation, and bring greater financial transparency to a system where money already moves through complex structures. At the same time, many of these voices stress that if profit is permitted, it must come with strong regulation, real accountability, and a more united education sector that can engage with government in a structured and responsible way. Which brings me to the next question. The private equity question is, if schools are truly not for profit, why are private equity and venture capital firms investing billions into this space? What are they buying?
Well, they are buying the arbitrage. They see what is happening. Again, where they see, P sees the cash flow. And where they see the cash flow, they are signing up. But now that we are in this digital world, once we get this transparency enforced through government, they are going to back out. And you can mark my word for it.
So my take is, of course, they are eyeing the cash flows and the return on the capital that they have invested. And I think it's a welcome move. We need bigger capital to get into the education sector. India needs many more schools. I mean, I feel very surprised. Why should there be a struggle for any parent to get his kid admitted to a school, something as basic? This is the only country where I see that parents have to struggle in every city to get their kids admitted to a school. Why? They can get anyone admitted to a hospital. They can, everything is open. Why not education? We need more schools. We need better quality schools. For that, you need more capital. You need bigger players to come in a structured format in the education sector. And I don't shy away from saying that making money from an education setup is not bad as long as it is done ethically.
I'll take you back to 60s and 70s when socialistic pattern or socialistic thinking in India was developing. Profit and business were bad words. Surplus is decent. So my view is that you should change, instead of when you say profit, it gives a different kind of a meaning. When you say surplus, reasonable surplus, which is allowed by the government, when you invest a particular amount of capital, then this is the reasonable 15% surplus which can go back to replenish that capital which has come in, plus you can make more surplus which can be reinvested in the school. I would recommend that, which brings in more transparency and better organized system, and the words that we would like to agree with: surplus and not profit.
We would welcome all kinds of capital entering the field of education, because there is a huge demand and supply gap in India. 25 crore children are in the age group of K-12, and only 3,23,000 private schools are there, and we need more affordable private schools in the country.
Many schools say fee freezes and regulations are making survival hard. Is the current not-for-profit model actually sustainable? दिल्ली गवर्नमेंट देखिए 7 साल 8 साल से फीस नहीं बढ़ने दिया गया है. तमिलनाडु गवर्नमेंट recently made last week, and the education minister, the chief minister of Tamil Nadu made a statement that we will regulate the private school fees and will not let it. Of course, it's election time out there. How do you look at that, Vivek ji? क्या लगता है आपको?
So Gujarat has Fee Regulation Act since 2017. So we are facing it since the past 8 years. Initially, all the private schools were forced to freeze their fees for some years. Now the government has capped the fee hike to around 5 to 7% a year, and some of the schools have got fees frozen for 3 years. So that in the times you cannot invest in quality teachers, quality infrastructure, or if your fees are capped, there is no way, and these are done by political motivations, and this is going to be emulated in the rest of the country, right? It started with Delhi, it came to Gujarat, and now one state after the other.
Yeah. What's your take, Pramod sir? Because you consult so many schools spread across the states. I mean, what's your sentiment on this?
As a chemistry teacher, my litmus test is that whether it helps the poor people. Has the today's system helped EWS admissions? No. They are running from one place to the other, and where are economically weaker section admissions?
Where are the government schools then, sir?
Government schools is another story. There are no teachers there. The lab doesn't have equipment. The chemicals have not been bought in the lab for doing experiments. So that is the government failure, one after the other. But that is, what about Delhi University? Yesterday, Delhi University was the prime university of this country. Today, it doesn't have the teachers and professors' vacancies filled.
Again, I mean, coming back to the question, I mean, the fee freezing and regulations are making survival hard. Then what is the point of this current not-for-profit model? I mean, when you're not letting the fee increases and everything, and then again not calling it a for-profit. I mean, what's your take on that?
I mean, freezing the fees, I think, is simply over-regulation, in my opinion. Can the government in the same breath say, I will freeze teacher salaries? Can the government say, I'll freeze electricity tariff? Can the government say, I'll freeze fuel cost? It doesn't work. Why should the government tell me whether you should increase the fees by X percentage or not? End of the day, parents will take admission in a school only if they see value, right? Let the market forces play on themselves. When there is over-regulation, you are discouraging investment, entrepreneurship, and people who are genuinely interested in setting up a school from entering the sector. I feel, do not over-regulate the sector. Let it happen. Let it evolve on its own.
I agree with you, Amith bhai, but the question was, is it sustainable, the fee regulation and all? I operate from Uttar Pradesh, and we have fee regulation. We increase the fee within that fee regulation, so there is absolutely no problem. I'm not sure about other places like Delhi and all, where I'm not sure if they allow any fee increase. But there has to be that inflation increment you have to give, whatever that you are giving. So if that is there, that takes care of it. On top of that, in UP, they also allow the percentage hike that you had given to teachers. So that can be added to the...
If it's a new and evolving school, which is adding additional infrastructure or which is upgrading its own facilities with a fee cap, how do you sustain it?
I would like to say that, like in UP, there is a Fee Regulation Act, but it happily allows a 7 to 8% increase every year. And 7 to 8% increase is a good increase. It's
That's
not
fine. That's fine. Absolutely.
In corporates, I mean, that's the annual increment, the basic increment in any corporate.
And we are absolutely okay with that.
Parents want their child to study in a school where teachers are good, but you don't want teachers to be paid handsome salary, right? And unless you increase fee, it's not going to happen.
And there is already an education cess.
But that is-
How does it help?
Yeah, it is not helping.
So again, I'm saying is that one shouldn't look at education or only education as the noble cause. And by the way, Article 21 of the Constitution also says right to life.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
Right? Which also means that health, right?
Yes, I
So again, my moot point here is that let the market forces play. Inefficient people will fall back. The country needs probably 10, 15, 20 times more schools and good schools. And the only way to unlock it is to attract capital. And the only way to attract capital is to respect capital. You cannot have, philanthropy is not sustainable. That's my moot point here.
But it has to start somewhere. I'll give you example. You look at higher educational institutions. There's a recent institution that was started in 2017-18 called Plaksha University. A lot of entrepreneurs came together and set up the university. So, it is time for people to come together and do.
Yes, absolutely.
take
That
this
model
step
works.
and
That
setting-
model works.
Yeah,
Same for Ashoka.
absolutely.
Same for Flame,
ISB.
right?
Yeah. So I think it's time that we look at that, because changing
But
of
these are
the
handful
constitution.
institutions. But these are handful institutions. 4, 5. We need hundreds. And one more point here. Why is for-profit allowed in a play school? Why is for-profit allowed in certain boards? Again,
But
so I think the government needs to
Amit,
make
that's a good point. That's
a
a very
counter
good
question, Amit, for you is, could profit bring better standards with stronger funding, or deepen inequality by turning schooling into a premium product?
So I feel, by and large, if you play it out over decades, profit will attract capital, which will increase or better the standards of education. I feel absolutely convinced about it. Would it bring inequality? Maybe yes, maybe no, right? But there are many players will come at a lower price point, but end of the day, it has to make logic on the balance sheet as well. Right? So it may or may not, but I think if you open it up in a few decades, we'll see. Like in healthcare, you have all kinds of hospitals. You have the most flashy ones, and then you have the basic ones as well, who cater to the poorer section of the
But what is the
society.
feedback? You take your child to one of the top-notch hospitals, private hospitals. What is the feedback? What do individuals feel? That the hospitals are minting money. Even if the test is not required, they do the test, right? And the institutions that were set up by government, like AIIMS, like Gangaram, they are the ones where you want to go, but you don't have enough.
But how many AIIMS and how many Gangarams? And individuals also feel that airlines are making money. Individuals feel that lawyers are making money. So everyone would make money in society, and that's all right. I'm saying, as an entrepreneur or as an educationist, I don't take the responsibility of educating my entire country. I take the responsibility of educating kids in my school, and I want to do it the best way I know.
It's a strong statement, Amith.
Yes. And I want to educate the kids in my school in the best way I can. Right?
And I feel differently. I want to be able to set up an example, and I want to be able to educate kids not just in my school, but in the schools that are in the neighborhood. Create more schools through the surplus generated through my school.
So that's my model as well. We also want to run a hub and a spoke model. There is a for-profit school, and there are schools which we support, which are absolutely for non-profit. But I'm saying these are not scalable models. So we need millions of entrepreneurs who think like us to be able to educate a country so big.
But you need at least 3.5 lakh more private schools to be permitted in this country in order to cater to the demand.
Or the flip side, the private schools collaborate with the government schools
Exactly.
and adopt them
Yes.
and
Yes.
not
Oh,
create new
absolutely.
schools.
Yes. Absolutely.
And those can be non-profit.
The other thing, so your point, I 100% agree with you. I think what is important is for government to regulate this, to ensure that profits are not taken out, and P is coming into picture. Once this is stopped, once they enforce transparency, you will see more schools coming up. You will see the gap of 3 lakh schools fill up like in next 5 years. But that has to happen now.
But will it happen through PE funds or
No,
will it happen through passionate educators? That is something that we have to.
It'll be through the schools who are again siphoning off the money presently because of lack of transparency, and even though government knows about it, everyone knows about it, the Ken story clearly calls it out, but there is no action that has been taken yet because of lack of resources maybe. But with the AI and all that I'm talking about, the tools are, it'll not take much time, right? Government is aware of it. I don't know if you've. So I run an international school. We got a notice from GST department that we have to pay GST for paying the fees to the IB. And I mean, they can't raise the GST bill, but we had to pay it. So government is going to, through these tools, AI, technology, we are going to make a great headway, and it will end up resulting into more schools. Your question, I want to point out here that it will only create inequality. It will create pricing war. It will impact teachers. I mean, that's why I'm against it.
If I may ask, I mean, if profit is allowed, what kind of regulation would make this safe for students? We were talking about a lot of government schools and a lot of state government and central government now kind of coming together and merging 2, 3, 4 schools into one school and kind of using that infra for some other thing. Could there be a situation where there is a reward system for private schools? I mean, if we do some good to XYZ government school in your vicinity, for instance, in Ranchi, where your school is, if government comes and asks you that if you could take care of this government school, which has 1,000 students, then possibly as a reward mechanism, we could possibly allow you for profit. Because, and then again, if the exemption of RT is also given in that. So I think that's a discussion for another debate for another time. I mean, that we have other panelists confirmed, RTE or the voucher system and so on and so forth. But my straight question is, if profit is allowed, what kind of regulation would make this safe for students?
Starting with RTE, when RTE came in 2009, all the schools, none of the schools have resisted accommodating 25% of the students through RTE, because under the pretext that the fees will be recuperated from the other 75% of the students. Now doubling it with a fee regulation or some other caps, then it makes it difficult or challenging or to sustain the education model. We need schools that grow at a great pace and capital to come into schools. That is something that is required for making education investable and making education sustainable.
My thing is very simple, that since not-for-profit schools have not been able to help India, and today we are at crossroads. So my thing is that why not try this time with correct regulations, some reasonable profit, which can be so that the capex which has been invested can be recovered.
I think, like Sir said, that more than regulating fees and profit and all of that, government should strictly intervene in regulating standards. I feel in India, I mean, most of the countries have a very strict standard, government-regulated standard of education, where schools are probably marked and assessed. I think government should have a very strict policy on that. That is where it will really help the education sector. By capping on fees, by regulating profit or surplus, for a better word, I don't think that's helping the country at all. And as also said, all this, structure of profit has not worked so far.
I think it has worked so far. We all are sitting here. We are entrepreneurs. I mean, whatever was not working, we need to correct it. But if profit is allowed, first of all, it should not be allowed. So I would just say that if we allow profits, then it is going to impact students significantly. It'll result into pricing. It'll basically be a pricing decision for parents to choose from schools. Not that it is not today, but making it allowing profit is going to impact students more than anybody because of the teacher quality that you will get. Your teacher professional development, you would want to cut down the cost because I want more profit, right? And nobody can put regulation. Once it is for profit, well, it's my institution. You want to come here and put your child here, right? Or you've got options. But I think that will not be the right decision that the country would take.
Final round, in one sentence, tell me, should India legalize for-profit schools?
No, India should not legalize, but India should enforce transparency through AI tools and ensure that whatever money is being taken out illegally is stopped and reinvested in education.
Yes, absolutely. It should be legalized. And on a higher priority, India should set up a standard, a government-regulated standard to measure efficiency in schools.
Yes, I think it should be allowed, but reasonable profit, which should be governed by regulations, government regulations, which are very, very clear, which make it very difficult to hide profits.
Yes, we must allow for-profit entities to set up schools, and it should be powered with democratization, decentralization, digitization, maybe tokenization.
Let's quickly also talk about what are the biggest risks if we legalize for-profit school, and also the biggest risk if we don't. Starting from you, Vivek.
It is rather than a legal risk, it's a moral question. The legality of it and the morality of it. We will have to decide. Right now we are focused on legality of it. But the moral compass of the educational institute, that will be the determining factor, whether it is going to be, whether they are making the profits, whether they are hiding the profits, whether they are shadowing the returns or anything. It's a moral question rather than a legal question.
I agree there. It's a moral question. Otherwise, just to make profits, schools may start selling seats and advertising, and there can be a competition. So morally, we need to have proper regulations, and we need to have that moral fabric, ethos must be at a higher level.
So the risk, if we don't, implement for-profit school is what we've already seen in the last 78 years. We need much more number of schools. We need bigger players to enter. We need to standardize education in some way. And I think corporate money should enter the sector.
Biggest risk, if we allow, is going to impact the quality education. We should not commercialize it. As far as the biggest risk, if we don't, is concerned, I think people will continue to misuse it. But with AI tools, I am very confident that very soon we'll see the enforcement on transparency being enforced, and people who are violating would be punished.
Tonight's discussion makes one thing clear. The question is no longer whether money is part of the education. It already is. The real question is whether we choose transparency with regulation or idealism with loopholes. Allowing profits will not fix every problem, but acting as if profit does not already exist has not protected the system either. The future of school education cannot be built on denial. It must be built on clarity, accountability, and honesty for parents, teachers, students, and institutions alike. And now the conversation does not end here. We want to hear from you. Do you believe legalizing profit will improve education or commercialize it further? Share your views in the comments. We will bring selected audience perspectives into our upcoming episodes with full credit as part of this national conversations. Because Education is too important to be decided behind closed doors. That was tonight's education verdict. Straight questions, real answers, no fluff. Co-powered by Hop Class and Mayur School, Jaipur. Good night.